Today is August 8th, and there is some interesting news updates. One, the Department of Ed sent out an email about Biden's second attempt at discharging debt. I want to go over, and I will also go over some media coverage on this Department of Ed announcement. So, first and foremost, I'm just going to get information direct from the email that was sent out about Biden Harris administration has approved. I love how they added Harris since she is now running for president in lieu. So they of course want to add Harris to give her some credit for what's going on. Approved the cancellation of 4.76 million Americans through cancellation of their debt through public service loan forgiveness that they're entitled by law. And of course, launching the most affordable. So it's super political, right? But they talk about wanting to be included in the potential debt relief. You don't need to take any action. So they're saying if you want to be included in the potential debt relief, no actions required. If you don't want to be included, you need to provide that information to your servicer by August 30th to opt out of potential debt relief by August 30th, which is in about 3 weeks from now. So if you want to opt out, which is interesting, who wants to opt out of debt relief? That doesn't even make sense to me, but because of different lawsuits that have transpired, they want to give people the ability to opt out of debt relief. And so if you want to be opt out, you can contact your servicer. I don't know of any official form that needs to be filled out to opt out. And then it says, note that if you want to opt out of forgiveness due to enrollment into the income-driven plans for the next several months, you won't have an option to opt back in. Isn't that funny? So if you want to opt out of debt forgiveness, they're just letting you know you can't opt back in. If you opt out, we will automatically reevaluate your eligibility for IDR forgiveness at a later date. You won't need to take any action for that to occur. So basically saying you can still get access to IDR in the future if you do happen to opt out. So just want to translate some of this legalese, right? So who's eligible for forgiveness? This is what the Biden administration has opened for public commenting, I think in January or February. Number one, borrowers who owe more than they started when they were in repayment. When they started repayment, they owe more now than when they started. Those are borrowers who opt in, or who are opted into this potential debt forgiveness. If your current balance on unconsolidated direct loans or FFELP loans or Department of Ed held Perkins loans is greater than the balance when you entered repayment, or your current balance on a consolidated loan is greater than when you started, you're a great candidate to be considered for blanket forgiveness, essentially. If you're a borrower who entered repayment many years ago, basically, if you have only undergrad debt and entered repayment before July of 2005, and you have, or you have at least one graduate loan and at least one of your undergrad or graduate loans entered repayment on or before July of 2000. Literally, that's 25 years ago. So if you have grad school debt 25 years ago, you've been almost paying for 25 years, you still have debt, they're going to forgive it. If you have undergrad only debt and you took it out as long as you entered repayment before 2005 and you're still paying, they will also forgive that. That's huge news, actually. Borrowers who are otherwise eligible for loan forgiveness but have not applied, essentially, they want to consider you if you potentially were eligible for IDR forgiveness but didn't apply. I don't know how they're going to search for those borrowers, actually. I don't really know because IDR enrollment is based on your income. So how are they going to search for that? I'm unclear. Or would be eligible for school discharge. That is more clear because that means you've gone to a for-profit school. That's clearly and more evident through the data they do have. What school took out loans? Did you take out loans at? They'd have that information. Borrowers who enrolled in low financial value programs, again, borrower defense institutions, they have links to what those institutions who those institutions may be and include. I'm going to click into that right now so that I can inform you on what those institutions are. Let's see. Who failed the Department of Education's, essentially it's an institution who failed the Department of Education's accountability standards. Entering repayment means that you entered after to define, by the way, it means you entered repayment 6 months after you stopped going to school. So again, I specifically don't use the term graduated because you could have stopped the degree and did not graduate. As long as that 6-month period transpired before July 1st of 2005 for undergrad only loans, you qualify. So I just wanted to put that out there. I wanted to put it out there in case I know there's going to be questions around that. So wanted to mention that. The accountability standards, I'm trying to check what the Department of Ed says the accountability standards are. Of course, they have links. Oh, the accountability standard. Okay, so I feel like I kind of want to screen share this, but I'll link to the student aid page in below so that you all can see what I'm looking at from the studentaid.gov site. An institution failing the accountability standards include having a high default rate, producing graduates whose debt represents too large of a share of their income or whose earnings are no better than those of a high school graduate, are subject to final agency actions to terminate aid for failing to provide sufficient financial value. So people who are literally institutions who are at risk of not being able to get federal funds anymore because their default rates are too high or their graduates don't actually come out with good outcomes. Those are the institutions that do not meet the Department of Education's accountability standards, okay? So it's at least a good step moving forward to prevent for-profit and predatory institutions from taking out federal funds if their graduates have really bad outcomes, right? Because it's essentially using the federal government and abusing potential students for money from the government and not providing any valuable outcomes. This is who the government is trying to protect. Borrowers who take out all this debt and get a degree that is worth nothing. That's what they want to prevent. So under the proposed rules, you'd be eligible for debt relief if you took out a loan to attend an institution or program during a period when it failed accountability standards or were not recertified. So they would know that based on what institution you went to and when you went to it. That's how I think they would qualify that criteria. That criteria. Okay. So let me just quick scan some updates to include in this update. Any media information to see if there's anything added outside of the direct Department of Education newsletter. The announcement builds on a release in April that they drafted the rules that are enacted to aim for further student loan forgiveness. They began notifying borrowers of the opt-out deadline, which is the end of this month, which is true. And I also did want to say that Biden has come out and said that he's going to attempt in this fall a second attempt at blanket forgiveness this fall. Full provisions of that TBD. We do not have that yet. But I do want to mention that the Department of Ed predicts that if its proposed rules go into effect, the Biden administration could have made over 30 million borrowers eligible for forgiveness through its efforts over the last 3 years. In contrast, Biden's first attempt at blanket forgiveness was predicted to impact 27 million borrowers. But because of all these additional changes and parameters to include special groups, he's increased his projected number of borrowers he can help by 3 million. So that's very interesting. So we will see what the impact on this blanket forgiveness looks like on these targeted groups of people that I just mentioned from the Department of Education's email. But then lastly, I look forward to reporting on what blanket forgiveness should look like. Of course, he's going to attempt it right before the election because it's political, and it's an attempt to also get President Harris credit and political credit for what the administration is attempting to do to help with larger scale and blanket forgiveness. Let us know if you have any questions. We're here on standby. You can enroll in SAVE right now. You can enroll in any of the Department of Education programs on their website, but LoanSense can still enroll you if that's a value at all. You can come to at least get a free plan in our site to see how we can help. MyLoanSense.com. Let us know what your questions